morning. So I've been reading from this book, How to Meditate by Kathleen McDonald, and some of you may have already heard how obsessed I am with this book. There's just so many great things in here about life and learning how to become aware of your thought process and your feelings and how to cope with them. And I was reading this section about anger, and anger personally has not been something that I've struggled with, but I know that it's something that a lot of people that I know struggle with. And specifically, there was some things that she talked about in here that reminded me of a story that I wanted to share with you guys. So I'm going to read some of what she wrote and hang in there because I got a story after this that I promise you're going to want to hear. So she says, another method for dealing with people who hurt or annoy you is to put yourself in their place and try to see the situation from their point of view. What is driving them to behave in this way? Is their state of mind peaceful and happy, or confused, miserable, and uncontrolled? They are human just like you, with problems and worries, trying to be happy and make the best of life. Recall your own experiences of being angry and unkind to get a better idea of what they are going through. Also consider what the outcome will be if they continue to act in deluded ways. Will they be happy and satisfied, or will they just create more trouble and suffering for themselves? If we really understand others' concerns, confusion, and pain, we will be less likely to react with anger, which would give them even more suffering, and more likely to regard them with compassion. And as I think about this and I read this, what it means to me is that, everybody is here doing their own thing, but we all really have two motives in life. The first is to be happy. We're all striving in some way to be happy. And the second is to avoid some type of struggle. And every day we're going to make these decisions and we're going to act and we're going to say certain things in one of those two ways, to either create a positive result for us or to avoid a negative consequence for us. And sometimes those things conflict, right? So I'll give you a great example. My husband has gotten into quite a lot of trouble with racing his car. He likes to drive fast, right? Countless speeding tickets. I'm sorry, babe, that I'm telling everyone this. Got his license suspended one time, court fees, all that stuff. Why does he speed? In that moment, he's trying to create happiness. On some level, he thinks that speeding makes him happy, makes him feel good, and he wants to do it. Why do I not want him to speed? Because I'm trying to avoid a struggle, right? And so sometimes, because we're dealing with those two different motives, it's so hard for us to be on the same page, and it can cause an argument or confusion. But when I calm myself down and realize that he's doing it to create some type of happiness for him, and I too have been guilty of making bad decisions in order to become happy, what I think is going to create happiness for me, and I can explain to him in a nice, calm way that I'm just concerned and trying to avoid the struggle, avoid paying, avoid the license suspended, avoid having to drive his butt everywhere, I'm trying to avoid those things. If we can communicate on that level, we can understand each other, because we've both been in the situation where we want to avoid struggle, and we both have been in the situation where we want to create happiness. So understanding that everybody pretty much boils down to those two things, right? We're all human. And, sometimes the way that we express things are going to be different, but we are all very much alike. The other thing that I get from that is that I can't own somebody's delusions when they think about things in the wrong mindset, and it allows them to be the type of person who's making bad decisions which are angering or hurting my feelings. I have to understand that poor person has to live with that mindset 100% of the time. I may be miserable in the moment that I'm interacting with them. They have to be miserable their entire lives until they change that mindset, right? If they're going to be an angry, abusive person, they have to live with that. And instead of being angry at them, I should feel compassion for them. I should feel lucky that I do not have that mindset, that I am not still trapped in that darkness, that I have found a way to look past anger and all of those things in order to move forward. The next thing she writes is, investigate the object of your anger. Does it exist in the solid and definite way that it appears to you? If the person you are angry at is really so bad and unlikable from their own side, independent of how your mind perceives them, then they would appear that way to everyone. Is that true? Or are there people who do like and do admire that person? Try and see the situation as like a dream. Although it seems very real in the moment, from your point of view at a later time, even tomorrow, it will appear distant and faded, a mere memory. And I'm going to come back to that when I share my story with you guys. And lastly, she writes, you, the other person, and your interaction will all definitely come to an end. See in this light. Are the problems really so important? Are they worth the anguish and unhappiness they cause you? So I want to come back to what she writes earlier about the way that we perceive people and how that's going to seem like a distant memory, later on. And, sometimes we meet someone and that first interaction with them, maybe they give us a bad impression and we think that person's conceited, right? And our perception of that person is created around that one situation, that one characteristic, that one attribute. But really, that does not define that person. They are more than just conceited in that moment. They have a whole life outside of that one situation that you met them in. They are someone's mother, someone's father, someone's friend, someone's spouse. Someone out there admires them and loves them. But we have chosen only to see that one little sliver of who they were in that moment. So to realize that all of this anger and all these feelings that we have towards this person are all being defined by a brief glimpse of them as a person, and for us to slow down and back up a little bit and realize that they really aren't who we think they are, that we just saw them in that moment. Just like if you were to pull one moment from my life, I'm pretty sure you can come up with a few different perceptions of who I am, but I'm a person overall. The last thing she said there was that at one point it will become a distant dream. It will become a mere memory. You don't even realize it anymore. So I wanted to share this story with you guys. This is not something that I typically share with people. In fact, I think I've only actually shared this story with one other person. I was 15 years old and there was something going on in my life. And I just was at this breaking point where I was at my end. I could not fathom the thought of going on any longer. I was so devastated and just over life that I just wanted it to end. And I would pray every day for God to just take my life. I didn't understand why I was waking up, why I was going through this. I actually had a friend that was diagnosed with an illness at that time. And she was so upset that her life could potentially end. And I remember being envious of her and saying, God, I wish that could be me. I wish that I could, know that it was all coming to an end so that I could finally be free, right? That's the state of mind that I was in. Now, I don't know where my family was, but I was alone in the house. And my parents had a small handgun that they kept wrapped up in a box inside of my filing cabinet next to my dad's desk. And I went into the room, I pulled out the box, I unwrapped it, and the first thing that I remember thinking was it was a lot smaller and lighter than I had imagined. I kind of imagined it would be really heavy and bulky, but it was just this little handgun, And I put it up to the temple on the side of my head, and without hesitation, I pulled the trigger. I hear this, and nothing. And it takes me a second to realize the gun is not loaded, and I'm still here. And in that moment, I felt many things. One of which was, geez, you can't even be good at killing yourself. Like, you're so worthless, And then there was that other piece of me. I've always been someone who's very deep into intuition, gut feelings, and signs and things like that. And in that moment, I felt like if you were supposed to be dead, there would have been a bullet in that gun. You would have been dead right now if that was what was supposed to happen. But you aren't. There's a reason why you are here. There is a reason why you are alive. And even if you don't know what that is right now, you have to trust that and you have to keep going. So I put the gun away and I went back into my room and life went on. But here's what I want you guys to get. Something in that moment, I was experiencing some circumstance that felt so devastating, that was such a struggle in that moment, that I thought it would be better to say goodbye to the whole rest of my life because of whatever I was experiencing in that moment. That situation must have been devastating. And I can't even tell you what it was. I don't know if I had a fight with my boyfriend, if I was fighting with my parents, if it was, I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you what the situation was. I couldn't tell you what the circumstance was that led me to that. And it's only been 12 years. I can't even tell you if I would have remembered 5 years ago. So here's what I want you guys to understand. No matter what it is that you are feeling in this moment, no matter how tough the struggle is, no matter, how devastating or how, how dark of a place it is, whether you can see the light at the end of the tunnel or not, I can promise you, I can guarantee you, if you continue to move forward, you will forget. You will forget what it was. It will be a distant memory, something that you don't even recognize in your life anymore. How many of us have gotten into fights with significant others or friends and we can't even tell you what we were fighting about? We don't even remember why we broke up, Whatever it is, it will pass. It will pass and you will move forward and you have a beautiful life ahead of you. All you have to do is just be willing to live it.